Hi, I'm Gabe.
And I'm Kat.
And we're the Ghouls Next Door. Woo! And we are continuing our representation series.
Bum, 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 bum.
Yeah. And this is episode 69.
Hey,
nice. It's a sex number. Everyone join, which is real fun because we're specifically talking about underrepresented or ill-represented community that is based on sexual orientation and identity, right? So we are going to be talking about queer and or LGBTQI plus everything horror.
Yeah.
And we are joined today by the absolutely amazingly talented, multifaceted.
Oh, no.
The literally most famous person I know.
Let's not do that. I'm local. I am very local.
Yeah, but to us, you're like the star. You're like the Madonna of
What?
here.
You're the Madonna of Philly.
What?
Also, it's your birthday.
It is my birthday. Oh.
Thank you for coming here on your birthday.
No problem. I'm like old, but not really.
Yay!
I found out today that Jackie and I are real friends. I thought so at the music video screening, but I was just like, whoa.
I have no idea why Kat wouldn't think that we're actually real friends. I don't know what I've done.
Kat's very sensitive.
I am insecure.
Just being real.
But yeah, the amazing Jacqueline Constance is here.
Hey.
Hanging out with us.
Hello.
Yes.
I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. Well, why don't you tell our listeners a bit about yourself? Because we're your number one fans, but we want them to also be your number one fans.
So that's also why we invited you.
True. Yeah. That's real. So I'm like a singer, songwriter, like loop pedal artist, producer, part-time like Instagram prophet. I just do things that feel good and look good sometimes, and yeah, it's not too much to me.
Stop it! Yeah. You are amazing.
You know what? I get that a lot, but I just do things.
So humble.
I just try my best.
Yeah, and we brought you on to talk about representation, specifically about how this specific community is represented, and just kind of like, why don't you let our listeners know why, how do I put this? How you have seen representation over the years, and whether that there's been good or bad, or not even just horror, right? Just in media.
If people don't know that, I identify as queer. Sexual identity is queer. Often identify as non-binary on the gender spectrum, but it's funny you say representation because I automatically think like lack thereof. You don't get too much of especially queer, non-binary, masculine presenting, especially if they're not like the comedic sort of like space, or if they're not like the first people getting like killed off, or and I'm sure we're gonna dig a little deeper into it, but you don't get it too much. I mean, there are spaces where it's happening now, but it's still not where it should be as far as representing a certain grouping of people. So, I mean, we're going to talk about it a little bit today.
Yeah, we're going to dive into it. And, we're going to talk about some of the histories of how film has represented or misrepresented this community. And we're going to talk about a film. So it's what keeps you alive.
What keeps you alive.
Got it.
There it is.
Got into what keeps you alive, which I'm not sure if our listeners have watched it because it's kind of, I feel like, flew under the radar, especially for me. But there are plenty, and I'm sure people are like, you missed your opportunity to do X, Y, and Z, because there are a lot. There's an abundance of ones, including the fact that there's going to be a Shudder documentary about queer horror, which I'm very excited for. My only qualms with it is that their notice for it is an article that features photos from Jennifer's body, which is not a good representation.
No. Yikes.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of them are really bad.
Yeah.
Or just like, I am a straight person and I think this is what lesbians are. Here's a movie about it.
Right.
I read this in a book or saw it in porn.
Saw this on Queer as Folk. This must be. I watched the L Word when I was younger. This must be what it is.
Yeah.
So ridiculous.
It's all from like a straight lens, and it's all, or if it's like anyone who is queer in identity is always like kind of not, like they're always like trying it on. so
it's almost like a jacket. It's
Yeah.
like, I guess I could be a little flop, like a little.
Take it on today and put it back on. All right.
You hear me sound effect for the jacket flop. Be a little day to day.
love it.
Yeah, facts. We tell you facts. All the facts. Yeah, facts. Still facts. About that spooky stuff. Yeah, spooky stuff.
So let me tell you something, just right out the gate, listener. History is messed up. History is
Yes.
like mad crazy.
It's really trash, actually.
It's
It's like still
incredible.
there. It's still trash.
Yeah.
Like, we're
Present
watching
history.
it continue to be
It's like
trash.
trash
today.
on paper.
Yeah. Trash on screen, trash in life.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone knew this about my history major days. I probably said it like 20 times because I don't remember the things I say. But there were multiple times throughout like college where I'd read like how awful the world was, and I had to take like a 2-week break of just watching like nothing but Parks and Rec and like eating ice cream and crying.
Yeah.
and then being like, all right, let's learn about the Holocaust again. I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's go back in.
Right. The world is pretty wild.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild.
It's scary.
We need to stop being shocked.
And
I
we're
guess. I don't
only
know.
dealing with like American history.
Yeah.
Like-
Because they won't tell us the other stuff.
Yeah.
Or they do, but they like,
It's
we're
very
better
like
than
change
them,
it.
right?
It's
it's
Depends on
very
what lens is we're in.
sugar coated and like covered in a nice bow for us.
So let me tell you some facts that'll make you real sad. So I got a lot of this information from controlforever.com. I don't know. That sounds like a sad website, but you know, here we are. I had a lot of cool stuff to say that when I read other websites, I was like, oh, cool. You're all saying the same stuff.
yeah.
This is probably accurate. The fun of queer representation in film in general, really, I mean, right after movies started was like 1920s, right? Am I right?
Well,
When did movies
they
start?
got up and did more stuff 1920s.
Okay, so like
19
films were happening.
Yeah.
It was running.
Yeah.
It was running.
1930s is like when we had like Boris Karloff and stuff.
Yeah, and then that's when the bad stuff started happening for queer representation in film.
Immediately.
We start right from the bat. So there's a thing called the Hays Code, which is basically, God, it's so messed up, was the solution.
Oh, we love, you know what? The
In quotes.
1930s love solutions.
All about solutions.
Nothing
Nothing but solutions.
in I guess in the good Christian American world.
Evangelical.
We're like, let's crack down. Let's really just like get down to it on the vulgarity and questionable, in quotes again, morals in media. It just ended up being, you know, anyone who is not a cisgender white male and his housewife
Yeah.
with their 7 kids. I don't know, not 7, like
like
4
their
kids,
paper
3
doll
kids.
family.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, cookie
Nuclear
cutters.
family.
Yeah.
Yes.
Was un-American. And this started, you know, at the time, it like started to transition way more into being real disgusting around McCarthyism and the Red Scare.
Because we didn't have enough people to hate during that time.
Yeah, you know, just make a long list. But, you know, in the 1930s, they started this with the Hays Code and kind of just like marked anything that seemed un-American in terms of Christian idealistic nuclear family times as things that were taboo. You cannot talk about them openly.
Yeah.
So already at this time, it was not okay to be openly gay
Yeah.
in any
Yeah.
way. But you could not talk about it on TV unless it was masked or kind of nuanced. It was hinted at.
Yeah.
You could not overtly be a gay character on screen.
Yeah. Even like, oh, is it Lucy from I Love Lucy? Later, she wanted to wear pants, and they would only allow her to wear like a pair of pants like once per season. like, so during that time, there was already, like, policing. Like, so imagine the 1930s, which is significantly ahead of that.
Usually, like, her in, like, a factory or something like that, like, doing, like, a very, like, masculine-presenting job.
Yeah, and even that was like, whoa, what are you doing?
Or some ruffles. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so... I mean, it's just interesting as it developed. It's interesting in, like, one of those sad ways where it's, like, not fun, interesting. It's like, ooh.
Yeah.
So during World War II, as you know, like, McCarthy, and the Cold War, you started seeing McCarthyism, which was, like, the communist scare.
Yeah.
Where everyone was a communist. Tell your friends who the communists are. They're going to get blacklisted in Hollywood. There were all these, like, societal things where, like, you would basically get, like, shunned from your communities if you were marked as, like, red communism.
Yeah. Fun fact number 2, Lucy was also on the blacklist.
Yes, she was.
Yes, she was.
That's why everyone knows. I guess an avid
right.
fan.
Didn't work in Hollywood after that. Oh, yes.
Continue,
So,
I'm sorry.
anything un-American was considered a communist sympathizer. So basically the queer community got looped into that. But they took it one step further in that the lesser known Lavender Scare happened basically at the same time, which is what they used to describe equating communism to being any kind of queer.
Yeah.
Queer and communists were the same in this world. So queer people were forced into stricter hiding with the threat of, you know, the blacklist.
Yeah.
And just, like, very blatant and out there homophobia. So that's not to say queer folks did not exist in film, but it really made it a very specific way they had to be represented in film that just really sadly has not been changed that much today.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, at the end of McCarthyism, you see the rise of the civil rights movement, the sexual revolution, calling for equality, peace, freedom of expression, all that stuff. Censorship was removed, but the presentation of, like, how queer folks were represented in film did not.
Yeah.
So you saw more of a shift to, like, really obvious forms of sexuality, but not
Just-
identifying,
Yeah.
like,
A very
what they
specific
were.
sexuality,
Yes.
which is the heterosexuality.
Yes.
Was like, yeah, free love was for a very specific type of person.
Cisgender white women.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. It was a white
It's
person
great to be white in America, and then / now. I don't know.
Yeah.
It sucks.
and
The
straight.
world sucks. It's so bad.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Are there any roles or characters or things that you kind of remember seeing and either made you uncomfortable or made you go, wait, wow, finally something, and, like, then it's like, oh wow, it took this long that I now notice.
You know what? I don't think I've ever. It wasn't, like, until recently I saw, like queer folks and then Black queer folks being represented. But I do remember, and this is definitely not a horror film, but I mean, it can be depending on who watches it. There was a movie called The Players Club. And there's, in big scheme of things, like, queerness, lesbianism was related to all these, like, super negative things, like sexual assault and like just violence and, like, all these things. And I remember watching that. I remember watching it very young. It's not a movie you should watch as a young person. Don't know how I was able to watch it, but here we are. But I remember seeing things like that, and I remember seeing queer people represent in this way that either we were dangerous, like, you know, there were violence towards us, or we were the comic relief. There wasn't really any sort of median out of that. And then to see, like queer Black women,
Yeah. No.
none, not a piece of none, you know. So it was one of those interesting things where, because I didn't see it, I didn't necessarily have language for it until I got way older, like maybe within the last 5 or 6 years. So it's been very interesting kind of watching how film and movies have kind of dove into queerness and Black queerness and everything that hasn't been cis white male based. It's been very interesting to watch and to kind of just be on the receiving end of that, because I feel like it's way I'm appreciative of all of it, but it's way past due.
Yeah. What, I'm sure people know anyway, but what would you say are some of the like real life horrors that the queer community is facing now even?
I think the biggest thing is just violence. And the idea of death because of, how I identify sexually and gender-wise. Those things make existing in general just anxiety-driven. And it makes it difficult to even just navigate just spaces that you're in. So I've yet to see a movie that kind of, outside of like, your melodramas and things like that, that addresses that in a sense. I would love to see a horror film that addresses like the anxiety you feel being queer. And then also if you hit any other intersections, whether you're a woman, whether you're non-binary, whether you're trans, whether you're Black, whether you exist in all of those things. I would love to see something horror-based that like works off that. I feel like it's coming. Like, I feel like with everything that's been happening, something like that is on the horizon. But, like, those are, like, real life terrors.
Yeah.
That, we experience on a daily basis. So it's very interesting when you talk about, like, horror and then equating that to real life, because a lot of queer experience exists within horror itself.
Yeah. Like, we don't, it's too much to kind of put it onto screen because it's so real, right? It's kind of like what I think about is how the ending of Get Out was changed, because the original ending was going to be where he would get locked up. Right. And it's just this idea that it was changed because it's like, we've seen that.
Right,
like,
That's been too much.
Yeah, I mean, his murderer was just fired. Like, like the fact that it's been like 5 years, I think it is. Yeah. And to see something like if we saw someone who's trans on screen be subjected to the violence that they are subjected to every day, it's kind of like, do we need that, or do we need to just like normalize and accept them instead? Like, why not just have a story where we have someone who's trans and it's not like it's not the pains of that, right? Like, we acknowledge that, we acknowledge the fear without being like, let me just show on screen the violence of this person.
Right. And I think that's the important thing, where like, queer lives, trans lives, anyone exists within this community, like our lives are still multifaceted and they're still like multidimensional. And a lot of times it's like you see these same sort of just boring narratives or like just derogatory narratives of the same, like the comic relief, the person gets killed off first, like all these things. It's like, it's been done. Yeah. Out of just, even if we're not even talking about like sheer equality, just talk about like originality. Like all these things have been done already. Yeah. Like, so it's like, why not have, a Black trans woman as, the survivor of the story that comes up on top in a horror film? Like these things haven't been discussed yet, but it's also because these things are not fully accepted yet. They're not things that really like resonate within the American fabric yet. So, I mean, it's an uphill battle, but I feel like with movies like Get Out, with What Keeps You Alive, like movies like that, like, at some point someone has to change the narrative. Someone has to change what is popular to talk about and do something fresh and original. Like, we could equate things with like representation all day, but let's just start having some very original, fresh stories. Yeah. Because, white cis men aren't the only ones that experience horror.
Yeah. And they also should not be the only ones writing it.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
90% of the problem is that's what's been happening.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, women make horror too.
Yeah.
Right. Anyone that, not just cisgender women, make horror too. Right. There's other people out here.
They're doing it. Using the tool, like using trauma of other people as tools for their mediocre plots.
Yeah, they could use their own trauma to write really meaningful and unique and wonderful plots, or just make it about something just nice that's just made by them.
Right, or just hire those folks.
Yeah.
Just genuine instead of being false.
Like
I saw this thing on Twitter. It was really funny. And it kind of like, I was like, everyone needs to see this, because it was someone who's doing this like video that was satire, where she was just like, oh my God, I just heard about straight pride. I have to go. And it's like her convincing like her boyfriend in quotes. And she's just like, you don't understand. Like, I go to work every day and I'm straight, and everyone's like, okay. And then I leave work and then I go out in life and I'm straight, and everyone's like, that's cool. And it just like, I feel like I'm being accepted everywhere and I've never had to try for anything. It's like this whole time. She's like, bring your khakis, bring it to the sun. It was just so good to see someone just like really just spell it out of like the inequality. It's just like every single day, or like if you tune into a film and you see yourself represented, like you take that for granted. And as soon as someone else is on screen, then they're like out here with their pitchforks, like, what are you doing? Like, where's my representation?
Right. It's always fun to see like how people flip out when like there's a newly like gay or lesbian or, you know, bi or trans character introduced into like a popular series or culture, and then it's like it's the gay agenda. And, you know, they're trying to turn us all gay. It's like, well, I've been exposed to straight things all my life, and I am still very queer. There's nothing going to change that. So your theory, I don't think it works.
Because it's like 10 to 1.
Right? It's like,
if anything, it's that little kid who's like, I have these feelings and I don't feel safe expressing them. Now I'm seeing it on TV, and it's not turning me. I've been gay this whole time. Now I'm just feeling safe enough to express myself and be alive right here.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Like, why don't we take scripts and we let them be written by people who are identifying that way, and then, you know, create those ideas, which is how we would avoid some of these horrible things that we've had in history, where
trash things. So trash.
Whereas, so like Kat was saying with the Hays Code, it was, you know, it really drove a specific way that queer people could be shown on film. Right. So it wasn't so much like they're all gone. It's like now they play a very specific role, and that role is the villain. That role is someone who needs help because they are mentally ill. It is in a way where they are conducting illegal activities, and their sexuality in itself is illegal, right? So they're corrupting of our protagonist and those forces.
Either like predatory or
right. It's like hyper violent.
Yeah. Well, because they're trying to equate being queer to being mentally ill, as it used to be in the textbooks.
Right. The DSM-4. It was, I think within the last 30, 40 years, it was removed from the DSM-4.
Yeah.
So, you know, the lack of understanding around like gender and sexuality, and how that equates with a lot of like very religious like texts and ideologies, you know, definitely filters in a lot of those like early works, even up to today. Like I even hate to be like, this was something like, hate to say like this was something of the past, but no, like these things even exist in movies, and film and things that exist even now, where it's like, it's these same sort of like boring, like
over and over
like narratives around like gay people who aren't cisgendered, who aren't straight, being like the bad guy.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my gosh, just originality, people. Just, you know, do something different.
Yeah.
Like,
or just have your work like imitate reality for a minute.
For a second, just if you don't mind, you know.
Yeah. So in addition to just being villainized, right, is that they were also queer coded, right?
Yeah.
So where they are there to play some variation of not straight, or implying that characters aren't entirely straight, right? But it's through implication, right? It's where we have to read between the lines or kind of infer from what's happening around them, and they can't really just be. right? And that kind of like, to me, is where when we look up films and we're trying to find like queer horror, right? A lot of the times the films that come up are ones to me where I'm like, wait a second, these are characters that heretofore this like actual film, like the character, if they existed outside of this film, did not start being queer until the film. Like we caught them in the middle of them being like, let me try on this jacket, right? Let's try on my queer jacket today.
Right.
And it's kind of like it's not like them coming to terms with this is who they've been the whole time. It's always just like
a speck in the
test.
narrative.
Yeah.
Like it's always like this very like drop in the pool.
Maybe
Yeah.
I could be.
Could possibly be this thing.
Yeah.
I'm in college.
Like,
who
I just got drunk one day, and then me and my best friend started kissing.
So I
got a
guess
couple
I'm
beers.
bisexual.
I guess I'm bisexual now. Like, well, baby, but you might have just been bored, sis. It's okay.
Yeah.
Like it's all
Drunk,
right.
everything kind of feels good. I don't know.
Right,
I
exactly.
just want to be touched sometimes.
Right, I just want some affection. That's all.
If you're sober and you also still feel that way, that's when you can tell.
And if it's like feelings,
Like
Yeah.
mutual feelings.
capitals.
Right.
Yeah, and I think it's like, it's not just that like they're trying it on. Most of the times they're bisexual. Most of the time their history of sexual partners are not like the same gender or even like non-gender, right? It's always just like in this moment we're testing this out. So we don't get a full like variation of that story. We don't get that full story, which is why I think the film, one of the pluses that I had for the film today. There's some pluses, some minuses, but that's one thing that I took from it and I'll talk about. But essentially, you know, this is the only way that they were shown, right? Is that they were either villainized or they were loosely that, right? There is, so from the same article that, this is where we're getting most of our information from that
It was a
Kat
good
found.
article.
It was a very good article. So
liked
it's
it.
written by Inez Mendoza Perez, who said this about queer coding in horror films. She says, at face value, there's a clear queerness in the stories and motives of even the earliest of interpretations. Male werewolves and vampires in particular could be easily seen as harmful stereotypes of common gay male archetypes. Werewolves are hyper-masculine and portrayed as aggressive, literal beasts. Vampires are more feminine, pale, and slender, and rely on their charm to attract victims. And both were a threat to people if they were unable or refused to keep their desire contained. Ooh. We're always talking about sexuality. Frankenstein's monster was born into a world that inherently despised him for something out of his control, literally how he was made. Werewolves were usually men who turned into violent, crazed animals at night, and vampires were active, nocturnal beings who seduced and literally preyed on their victims. Those monsters who retained their humanity in some way lamented their plight and desperately sought ways to become normal again. Common themes of repressed homosexuality and coming out subverted into stories about evil creatures who were vilified and whose destructions were celebrated. If one thing we learned in this series is, or just in this podcast, right, is if there's a monster on screen, they are in some way reflective of a specific group of people at any given time that is less than human.
Absolutely.
Sometimes it's for more than one kind.
Yeah.
Right.
Like any kind.
Maybe it's not even just queer community. It's like,
Right.
you know, we had
like
that whole thing
clear.
about the black community and
Black
having
community,
like
the brown community.
yeah,
all of
Right.
us.
all of it
Right. It's very clear.
monsterized on screen.
Right. And I was going to like bring up just vampires in general and how I always had this like, I don't call it a sick fascination, but this fascination was just like with vampirism and how it was kind of explained. It was almost like, you know, the thirst always wins, right? You know, this like I have this unquenching dire need for this thing. And like the vampires that, you know, outside of like the superhero versions like a Blade or something like that, were always in that sort of queer space.
Yeah.
Like, let me in or let the
right one in.
Let the right one in. And like that portrayal, like for me was very beautifully done, but very like kind of still weird because there's still this very like ambiguous sort of like sexually ambiguous, gender ambiguous sort of character that was still very dangerous.
Yeah.
And still held this space of like, this thing is like, this part of me can kill you. Mm-hmm. And it's been very weird kind of watching like these creatures sort of manifest into like these, you know, these fairy tale beings, knowing some of like their origins and how they've, you know, kind of manifested from like these marginalized communities and just the way that people portray a lot of these marginalized communities into now has been like very interesting to watch, especially like the idea of the vampire. That's been like the most interesting to watch. I think like Frankenstein, like zombies, like all these things have kind of been sort of for me cut and dry, but the vampire has like morphed into like this very like uber sexual thing.
Yeah.
Whereas if you go back and watch like the original vampire movies, it was none of that. It was like this sexually deviant thing that would sneak into your room at night and drain all your blood. And you know, and we can talk about the sexual connotations around like drinking blood and, you know, that how it's been portrayed in film. But you could just tell. It was just like, this feels very queer in like essence. Mm-hmm. So it's been interesting.
Because it's just like proud sexuality personified.
Right.
And the reason that it's an issue is that it is seen as the villain, right? Because they prey on them and they take
prey on the innocent, right?
Yeah, the innocent, the little girls that they think are virginal and beautiful and all this other stuff. And it's against anyone's will, right?
Flipping tables.
Yes, we're upset. And I would say even, you know, when you even look past like the blatant like comparisons to the monsters and the queer community, even just thinking about how it's even more harmful when they aren't monsters, when they're just literally themselves and they're portrayed as being mentally unfit, right? And they're just further like creating this idea and perpetuating the ideology that they're sick. It's done dirty to them as well because they can't even hide behind a mask. Right. It's literally just like my face equals the villain simply because of my sexual orientation.
Right.
Yeah, and one thing that was interesting when I was reading is like, and it's definitely true because I was trying to figure out the last time I saw a movie where there were like gay men and that was even just there.
Yeah.
Where like a lot of times in horror, especially, the focus is on a lesbian couple or, you know, there's like hinting that lesbianism could be happening.
Yeah.
But that is like the one where it's obsessive and murder. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You can't just be in love and it's normal. Like,
high tension.
It has to be the reason you're murdering people. Right. I like high tension was fun, but also
the ending was
so
fun,
problematic and it just upsets me.
The ending is gross.
But yeah, you get a lot of portrayal of like women villains in terms of like their sexuality is the reason that they're a villain. Mm-hmm. But you don't get a lot of representation of men being queer without them being like hyper sexualized in I guess a different way. Like where they're
Rocky
not
horror.
They're not just being there. They're
like Rocky horror.
Yeah, Rocky horror.
Yeah, right. Which is
like they're super feminine.
Yes.
And that is the motive for them being the killer.
Yeah.
Like being the murderous one.
Being feminine is just not okay.
Right. Or they're like the first victim. Like they're out here.
Yeah.
Like opening credits gone.
They're what's the word? Femininity is like used as like fodder, essentially.
Yeah.
It's
right.
Because they're not the
you're funny.
Yeah.
You're funny with your crop top sports uniform.
Right.
You're talking about.
And your pink fur, and then like you're super like, oh no, she did, like all that, all those like gay tropes. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And it's just it's sad and it's trash to really like pan through like your Rolodex of like horror films and films in general, and you really like go through like who's the villain, who's the antagonist, who's the protagonist, who comes out as the hero, and then it's these lists and you see not one queer person on them as far as being the hero, being the savior, being the the people that, you know, actually come out and save the day. Like, it's wild.
Yeah, films. Yeah, films. We watch some films. Now let's talk about those films. And all that spooky stuff. And all that spooky stuff.
So we watched one specific movie, but we're going to pause because I want to talk about things, because it did some good things. It actually has some positives, right?
Yeah, no, definitely.
So I kind of want to start with our list of films that didn't do that, or things that when we're looking back, we're like, here are some problems exhibited, right? So like, if you want to hear about our tangents about Jennifer's body, you can listen to our Monstrous Women episode. But that is where, you know, Jennifer and Needy's entire existence was one just made up as far as lesbians go. But it was also
very much like geared towards the male gaze. You weren't getting an authentic relationship at all, which because you never get to see why they would even like each other. It's just like, we have stuff in common. Let's never talk about
We're
it.
both sexy.
yeah,
Like,
we're literally
let's
women.
do it. Like what?
Yeah,
Yeah, and this
so
is
we're
like
just make out.
Right.
hypersexualized, definitely made not just to exist in like queerness. It's just for men to look at and be like, oh, I'm okay with this. If this is what gay is, I'm about it.
Right.
I'm gonna watch this and like, you know, because like men always talk like, I don't mind if you guys kiss. If you kiss a girl, it doesn't count. It's like, that's not real.
Right. That's not
Shout
legit.
out to all men who say it's okay to have a threesome if it's with two women. Because you're
Shout
doing
out
it
to
wrong.
you all.
Every single person.
This is for
in the
you.
face.
Be glad I can't curse on here.
Yeah. It also makes me the same reasons that you're saying, Kat, is why Black Swan also had that problem. There's an entire scene that's like uncomfortable because I'm like, why? Why is this happening?
Right.
In
Why
what
is
way
this a thing?
should I believe her? Right? Like there's, I mean, if you want to hear us complain about how lesbians are portrayed after being written and directed by a white man, you can listen to our episode on Contracted, which was Sex Happens. If you want to hear us complain about High Tension, you can listen to our episode in our French Extremity. Right? That was French Extremity.
Yep, it
right?
was.
What are you saying?
That. Like,
What are you saying?
Like, what is your end goal?
They're saying that being a lesbian equals obsessive murder.
Yeah.
That's what they're saying.
I mean, but you also hear the lesbian like jokes, like, you know, you hear like the phrase like, what do lesbians bring on their third dates? Like a U-Haul truck. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's one of those like things where like the play off of lesbians and women being like very like super emotional and super emotionally tied. So like they move like quickly in these situations. Yeah, like representation as far as like queer gay men is like scarce. But queer gay black men?
Yeah. Yeah.
Never.
Unheard of.
Unheard of.
Yeah.
Like
It's the short film we watched though.
Yes.
Did have a quick.
what? That's awesome.
Yeah.
Probably
It's very new.
like within the last like couple years.
And it's a short film, so
Yeah, it's a short film. It's like 20 minutes.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
it wasn't that long.
if you don't have a Shudder subscription, you probably haven't watched it.
But like it's crazy just to think about that and just to know like there is no real representation of queer like black men. And like it's scarce.
Yeah.
It's very scarce. Like, and I've even thinking about it now, I'm like, yeah, other than like a couple dramas here and there, I really can't think of any that have not been, you know, the gay best friend.
We watched another, and they actually have mixed feelings. I have mixed feelings about it, but it was called What Keeps You Alive. It's from 2018. I think it was decent.
Yeah.
It was decent. It was starring Brittany Allen, and it was directed by Colin Minahan.
Yes. And what's it about?
Minahan. And it is about majestic mountains, a still lake with venomous betrayals, engulf a female married couple attempting to celebrate their 1-year anniversary.
Yeah. So one I just want to highlight here is their specification of a female married couple in this description, and a married couple. Like I get it, but also like why?
For what?
Could it just
just
say
a
married
married
couple? Yeah, so it features this couple who are celebrating their 1-year anniversary, and they go to one of the characters, Jackie, not our guest.
Not me.
Yeah.
Jackie's not murdering people.
Yeah.
At least not yet.
Oh yeah.
It won't be us. We're friends.
No,
Yeah, we're in the good
it
way.
won't be any of the ghouls, okay? So
Yeah.
don't worry.
If you're in
at
the
all.
Ghoul community, the Ghoul Scouts, you're safe.
Yes.
Yeah. So Jackie, it's her cabin from growing up, and she brings her wife Jules, and they're supposed to have a romantic getaway, and then spoilers, one of them tries to kill the other for insurance money. Classic Black Widow story.
Yeah.
With a twist.
I really it was a fun time.
Mm-hmm.
It was not upsetting in the way High Tension was upsetting.
Yeah.
Because one thing that they did do a really good job about, I can't curse. They try really hard not to be the worst
Yeah.
Mhm.
because
They
it
were
is
very intentional.
yeah.
Yes.
Because this film was originally written for like a heterosexual couple. So like a man and a woman get married. It's that, oh, who did I marry? Do I know them kind of deal.
Mhm.
Who the
And-
F did I marry? That's a show on TLC, I think.
Yeah, it was that, but
Is
with
it
murder.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it was kind of going with that like classic story.
Mhm.
But in all the interviews with the actress and the director, they're basically like, the guy we were going to have do it, he couldn't do it.
Yeah, he signed on for a TV series.
So we rewrote it,
yeah.
as a, lesbian couple married, and just had that be the thing. But they,
Mhm.
you did try
Because
to be
of the
really.
actress specifically.
Oh, yeah, because of Hannah
Hannah
something.
Emily or something. I'm sorry, Anderson.
Anderson.
She-
We wasn't worried.
There it
Yay.
is. There it is.
The person who was yelling at us, you feel better now.
Yes.
Yeah, it was specifically that Brittany Allen and Hannah had worked together on Jigsaw.
Yeah.
And they although they did not have scenes together, she had talked to her before and she had seen her work and was just like, great. There's a few quotes from like this. So there's an article in Rue Morgue that is an interview with Colin and Brittany. So Colin is the director and his wife is Brittany. And this is like, I think their third film together.
Yes.
Thank you, Kat. And so she had this quote where one that stuck out to me was that she said she didn't want another film where she was like a woman is getting beat up by a man. First off, she was like,
Yeah.
I'm tired of that story. We don't need that. And then she also has this very long, convoluted explanation where what I think she was trying to say is that when she first was writing the script, there was an initial route that she wanted to go. And she then started writing it in a way to fit her friend, the guy, who then had to bail because he got signed on for a TV show and couldn't do it, right?
Yeah.
So then she was able to revert back to what her initial instincts were, which were to write this story about this lesbian couple. So it may be right, it may be correct. She might be trying to like backtrack the way that Diablo Cody and her director, I can't remember her name right now, from Jennifer's Bodies, when they retroactively were like, but we wanted it to be feminist. Don't get me started. But it's just this idea that she said it came very fluid and natural. They had to change some of the dialogue, but more or less kept it, right? Because it was originally written for a male and a female relationship, and then she was just like, but what if it was just a different couple?
Yeah. And I think there are lots of ways where that was really interesting.
Mhm.
And that like the actress did an amazing job.
Oh yeah,
The acting
phenomenal.
was fantastic. The shots were fantastic. It was beautifully filmed.
Absolutely.
So cinematographically
Some, like,
satisfying.
the long shots and
Mhm.
just
Love long shots here.
like the color like
Yeah.
of the sets and how like vibrant they were, how dark they were. Like it was beautifully shot.
It dwelled on a lot,
Yeah.
which was nice because you got to sit in your emotions for a long time.
Yeah.
The film is very widely liked
Mhm.
by, a lot of like reviewers in the queer community. Like they've said mostly positive things. In that the way that they're portrayed on screen is like the fact that they are a married lesbian couple is not the cause of any of it.
Yeah.
Right.
It is not the thing that is like the big, oh my goodness, look at this.
Yeah. It's not the high tension.
Yes.
Yeah.
And neither of them are hypersexualized at any point
Yep.
throughout the entire film.
Mm-hmm.
That like it's supposed to feel very genuine, and that the director and her even like say that in another interview that I read. It was basically, you know, them just being like, you know, we just wanted to not be crabby about it.
Yeah.
Like we didn't want to do this wrong, because if we're going to change it, we don't want to do anything that would use the subject.
Right.
And I think they did a good job at that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm conflicted on some ends of it, because it's just like, one, you do have another queer person as a villain,
Yes.
even though that's not the reason she's
And
a
it's
villain.
like, yeah, and there is a victim that's also simultaneously queer, but it's still like now
Right.
it's just queer and queer violence, and we're just not
Right.
fixing any problems.
Like it's violence by someone who just so happens to be queer, and not
Yeah.
violence because they are queer.
yeah.
Yes.
And I think that's the part that really, like, I was, and you both saw me, I was kind of into it at the end. You know, like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, this is a thing. And, you know, I also like the fact that some of the sort of like binary, like gender roles when it comes to like portrayal of like who's a villain, who's a victim. Spoiler, watch it, came out 2018.
Yeah.
But like who's the villain, who's not, and you know how that looks and what that looks like. Having, you know, the one who is the more like masculine presenting being more of the victim
Mm-hmm.
in this film was very interesting, because you don't necessarily get that, and that falls more into like trying to fit into like that binary sort of like, you know, narration of, you know, violence and all of that. So
Yeah.
that was like very interesting to watch. But for me, I appreciate the fact that their queerness, and this, hopefully this doesn't come off weird or wrong, but I appreciate the fact that their queerness was secondary
Yeah.
to the fact that like
They were just
they were
people.
just like, one of them was just very murderous and just
One was
killed
just-
folks.
yeah.
Like I appreciate it was like, yeah, this is part of the plot, but this is not the reason.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
just part of like who they are as people.
Yeah.
I'm looking, like I said, I'm looking forward to the day where like, you know, this is sort of mimicked in like Black films too.
Yeah.
But I think this is a start. I think this is like, it was very interesting to watch, and I was very like pleased with how it ended.
Yeah.
And you know, the story that was told. So the idea like this is queerness is a premise. It goes into the narrative, but it's not the main section of the narrative, nor is this why these are like enemies.
Yeah. Like the
Yeah.
motivation for
Exactly.
like what's happening.
Yeah.
Which is great. One
Yeah.
thing I really, really enjoyed was like, as much as you can enjoy murder, right? Was that so Jackie is, spoilers, the murderous woman. And at one point, Jules is trying to like, you know, appeal to her human side, which doesn't exist, right? She doesn't have emotions because she's a psychopath or sociopath. Right. So she doesn't have like,
Just one of them.
yes, I think it's sociopath because it's like where you don't understand human emotion.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't work. Right. But to kind of show her that it doesn't work, she mentions her first wife. Right. Which I was already like, ooh, okay. Like your first wife. Nice. And
Like,
it was
ooh,
when she,
pattern.
yeah, I was like, all right. And then later, Jules finds this box that's full of these lockets, which is what Jackie had given to her in the beginning as like being like romantic, right? And it's essentially what she gives her victims right before they die, as Black widows are one to do. But what I liked about it was that it those are not necklaces you give a man, right? And it was very clear that she is a lesbian. Like there was never a question of her like kind of bleeding through to this other side. Like she's not bisexual. She's not questioning. She was literally just like, she even says that like she had changed her name to Jackie because she was like, I found myself. I figured out who I was and this is who I am. And I'm a lesbian, right? And it's so easy, and it happens so often in films when you see a lesbian person that they're generally, they're just now lesbian all of a sudden. Mm-hmm. So it was so nice to see like, oh, well, I mean, it sucked because it was like, oh, you killed all those women. But it was also like, oh, good, you married all those women. Like,
Right.
you know, like it wasn't that part in Get Out where you find the pictures and she had like whoever was available, right? Like, because she went, like, she had the woman who was the
She went hunting
maid.
for people.
Yeah,
Right,
just
right,
people, because they didn't matter, right?
Right.
But this person had like a type.
Right.
Well, yeah, and I feel like in film you generally get a lot of like leaning towards bisexual representation as the queer community, and not a lot of just blatantly lesbian. Like,
it's
that
safe.
is how I feel. This is what I am kind of situation. You have like the lean in towards I'm just slightly not straight today.
I'm open. I'm different.
Because I mean, the you know, the proximity to like straightness, just like, you know, the proximity to whiteness. It's like this thing that will always kind of like trump the narrative. Like it will always, you know, be like present. So like bisexuality has been this thing, and that I feel like that's why a lot of even bisexuals nowadays get this like very bad rap around like their sexual identity, is that, you know, it's so much so pushed towards straightness and just curiosity and not an actual identity. So it makes things, especially when you see like mostly women have only really seen, other than like a movie or two, women who will dibble dabble. In like this bisexual boat, like in this bisexual pool, like stick the big toe in, like, and it's like, and it is tied, like you were saying earlier, Kath, around, you know, the gaze of men, and how it even not only in like the film itself, but also in the audience, and how it appears to the people who are watching it. So it, like I said, I appreciate this film because it didn't give any of that. It gave like, hey, you know, I'm a lesbian.
And those women were clothed the whole time.
Right. And there was a big like lean on like sexuality.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Not necessarily like sexuality as an identity, but like sex in general as like this pulling point to watch this movie.
You were just in it because of emotion.
Right. I was in it because I was just invested in the characters. Like I wanted to see what happened. Like
they were complex.
Someone's gonna die. I'm curious who it's gonna be, you know? So yeah, those like the leaving of like those normal tropes and those normal ideas was like very interesting to me, and it made me like invest in the movie because it was just a good horror movie.
Yeah, well, and talk our feelings.
Yeah, feelings. Yeah, I said feelings. Let's talk about feelings. Okay. And all that spooky stuff. I love spooky stuff.
So it's got an impro. Okay. Well, we didn't decide which is good or bad. I would say, so if you don't like it, it is yeet or be yeeted, because there's a scene where the wife is yeeted off a cliff, or she's yeeted off a cliff. The other one we had hoped she would have yeeted, and she did not. So and then she got yeeted.
Yeet or be yeeted. She was yeeted.
She had been yeet upon.
Yes.
And if you like it,
this is my favorite of all time, Childish Gambino's quote. 69 is the only dinner for two.
Yeah, because this is episode 69. Not because we're hypersexualizing our episode.
Quality quote.
Yes. Okay. It's, I mean, come on. Wordplay. It's my weakness.
Add that to my tombstone, please.
69. The only dinner for two. Jacqueline Constance.
So for how the LGBTQI plus community has been identified and represented in film heretofore, what is our feelings?
I feel like it's a joke.
It's yeet.
Like they haven't been well represented, unfortunately, as many of our series has brought to light.
Same, just kind of toss off the cliff.
Eat it. Yeah, I agree. It has some work to be done. But I think who knows what the future's going to hold.
Very true.
But I always like to end feeling like a little hopeful, because there are little pockets of parts, right? And the fact that there's going to be a queer horror documentary on Shudder, right? Like even that is progress. That means we are actively taking notice of the representation and we're doing something about it.
Yeah, I mean, What Keeps You Alive was a good story.
Yes.
And it was very respectful.
Yes.
So, I mean, at least we're not trying to do the worst. Mm-hmm. We don't have any more Jennifer's bodies coming out. At least I hope not.
What we got to do is we got to put pens in the hands of the queer community. We got to give them cameras. We got to give them on-air, privileges, like put them on the camera, put them behind the camera, put them on the boom pole, put them in the writer's room. Let's get those stories out there.
You just gotta hire them.
Yeah,
throw money towards it. Make it happen. They're out there trying.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Think about Pose.
They're tired.
Pose is all the way up and out there. People are loving it.
Right.
Clearly, there is a demand. Let's meet it, not yeet it.
Whoa.
Oh, that's my campaign.
Oh my God,
Bars.
t-shirts.
Bars.
Gabe 2020. For the film, what keeps you alive? Because that's what the only one we're really rating.
I enjoyed the film.
You're loud.
Yeah, we're not yelling at you.
I did enjoy the film. And I'll leave it there.
Oh
No, I don't think it was bad. I think it was cool. Like I definitely enjoyed it. So
it was fun.
it was fun.
Yeah,
It was
I also
fun.
I liked it. It was one of the first films I watched in a while, outside of the ones that we watched at the pre-screening, that I was just like, wow, I enjoyed that. I'm not upset.
Yeah.
Yes. I didn't walk out of watching the movie and wanted to flip tables.
Yeah, which happens way too frequently.
I'm genuinely
yes.
offended now all the time, and I wasn't offended.
Sorry.
No, it's just the media analysis. I can't take them off.
Yeah.
So every 5 seconds, I'm like, why was that like that?
Yeah.
Who made this?
We're like
I
this
need to
now.
know immediately before I can accept that this is
Did
okay.
this.
Yeah. Who did it? Is it allowed?
Yeah, because even if I like it, I'm like, should I like it? Who did it?
Mm-hmm.
Who made? And then it's just like, I can't just watch anymore.
But I think people
That's
should be
good.
asking those questions, right? Like,
Yeah.
I think what we really hope to and strive for in this series is to get people to start asking those questions. Like, when you sit there, stop being a passive viewer and just look and be like, who's telling this story?
Right.
Is it their story to tell? And are they telling it right?
And I know there's plenty of films that when you watch them at first, they were like your favorite. And then you watch them now, it's like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Like, this is so problematic.
Isn't that kind of
they're
nice
a
though, that
product
wouldn't
of
be
their
a thing
time.
anymore now?
Yeah, it's not because
Kinda cool.
that's the evidence we have, right? Is that we are, even if it is incrementally moving forward, right? Like, we are at a snail's pace pushing forward, and it's happening more and more. I did want to plug one podcast that is local that does really great, just talking about what's going on in the community, called My Gay Agenda. So if you guys are interested in podcasts, definitely check that out. It is a bi-weekly podcast where they interview members of the LGBTQIA community and plan the world domination, because it's the gay agenda.
It is.
So it's a phenomenal podcast. So I think we will probably broach the subject more, and I can see a lot of collaborations, because there's a lot of stories. And again, like, that's why we're doing this representation series, and that's why we invite people who aren't us to tell these stories. Yeah. Well, Jackie, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find your amazing work? Because you are Jacqueline Constance.
Yes.
Check her out.
So follow me on all the social medias. JACQCON Music. I'm on everything, Facebook, Twitter, Christian Mingle, Black People Meet. Make sure you follow me. Once again, JACQCON Music, and visit my website, www.jacqueline.com. So
Yeah, she's got some amazing music.
yes, I just put out a video last Friday. So
Yes.
and Gabe was a part of the crew.
I was there.
Kat is in the video.
It was.
Yeah.
It's a good time. We have a great time.
Yeah.
Okay. Just in case you all didn't know. Okay.
Yeah.
It's lit. All right. Well, check it out.
We love you.
Well,
Love
thank
y'all
you
too.
so much, Jackie. It was a pleasure having you on and giving us your insight and your charm.
Yeah, this is fun.
Yay.
Bring me back.
Yeah, we've
my
been
God,
waiting. We
yes.
were looking for an opportunity.
trying.
Well, so this was our queer horror representation in horror episode. So remember,
Don't get married.
they'll eat your kids.
Do, 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 do.